Okay, as you could see by the intro there, we spent a couple of nights in the Savage Gulf Wilderness area. It was 2 nights, 3 days, hiking just a little under 20 miles. This is during the 2020 pandemic, so we're feeling a little bit pressured to get out of the house, a little bit of cabin fever. And most of the time I like to hit the West Coast for my hikes, but trying to avoid flights and too much busy crowds during this time, tried the East Coast. And even though I knew I wouldn't have the great vistas and the views that I did on the West Coast, I thought it would be nice just to spend a little time in the wilderness, get back in touch and disconnect from all the electronics and busyness of the city life. One of the things I knew I had to do was redirect my attention, and I was pleasantly surprised at the fungi on this trail. Had not expected to see so many different mushrooms, and they were really in bloom at this time. I'm not sure, I'm not much of a mycologist, but I'm not sure if this is normal for this period of time, but this is what sort of became the center of attraction or focus on the trip. And it made it sort of fun, since I didn't have those views, I redirected my attention towards all these mushrooms and found several different species. If you are knowledgeable in mycology or know anything about mushrooms, feel free to provide some input or comments in the sections. Let me know which species you saw on there and maybe a little bit of info about them. I'd like to learn a little bit more. Here I'm coming up on the waterfall overlook, and as you can see, when I arrived I was a little disappointed. The trees were obstructing the view. I was hoping for a little bit of view, but I did bring the drone with me, so I maneuvered it carefully through the foliage and rose it above the trees a little bit there so I could get some cool views. I'm really glad I brought the drone this time. It added so much fun to the trip and made for some really neat aerials of the area that otherwise, of course, we would not be able to see. Otherwise, enjoy the view. Something to know about this trip, in case you decide to try it yourself, is there's not a lot of water along the way. Now, there are these small streams periodically, but I do recommend that you do stop and fill up regularly on this if you don't already have a large pack of water with you. And at the time we did this, it was pretty hot and pretty humid, so there were a couple of periods on this trail where we were struggling a little bit, wishing we had more water. Otherwise, still pretty nice. We had a little bit of a late start for the trip. It was probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon before we hit the trail. And next time, if I were to do this, I'd start a little bit sooner. But the nice thing about it is that we did get to see this beautiful sunset on the way there. And I really wish the camera did justice to it, but the colors and just the smell of the forest around you was really a great start. I mentioned earlier that we made it to the campsite after dark, so I didn't get any video or photos. But here we are the next morning, had a little campfire going. And the night before, I'll let you know that this campsite wasn't the best, in my opinion. Number one is when we got there, it was dark, I was unpacking, and I have my headlamp on, look down at my feet, and that's when I see about 20 spiders crawling all over me. Now, they were the daddy long leg type, so they're not any way dangerous, and I know that, but it's a little bit unsettling when you see that. And I'm not a huge fan of spiders, so Billy had a good laugh at that at my expense, and I can laugh at it now, but at the time I wasn't really enjoying that. The other thing is that the water was, in my opinion, a long ways off from this campsite. It was like probably a couple of 100 yards and down a hill, and that's the first time I've seen a campsite in any park or state park or national park where the water was so far away from the campsite. Otherwise, still pretty nice. Flat ground, beautiful trees, environment. Good times. I mentioned earlier that there wasn't a lot of water on this trail, and at this point we came across this little trickle of a stream, and we were a little low on water and pretty hot. Humidity was pretty high that day, so took an opportunity here to cool off for a second. But there's not much of a puddle here for if you have a kind of water filter where you have to dip down to gather the water, so I had to hold my cup under it to gather the water from the dripping stream. It took a few minutes, but it was a good opportunity to stop and rest too, because this was a little bit of an uphill climb out of the valley. While these aren't the kind of vistas and views that I'm accustomed to with my West Coast hikes, This was pretty nice, actually. It was early in the morning. We hit the trail to try to get out to the car, and I'm glad that the trail did wind along the edges here and give us a few opportunities to overlook the valley. It made for a nice hike out. Remember that waterfall from earlier? Well, we hiked around the valley and walked over to it, so the trail does walk right by it. And had we started our loop in the opposite direction, obviously we would have been here on the first day. But the route we chose, it brought us there on the last day, the hike out. And if you have a little time, it's definitely worth stopping and chilling out for a little bit. It's a pretty little waterfall, and you can go swimming in it, just relax, dip your feet in it, just sit back and enjoy nature. This is one of my favorite things about the hikes, is sitting by some water somewhere, either a fire or water, or even better, both. And yeah, bring your best friend if you can.